a ruling like this, I think, emboldens believers, no matter if you're tenured, no matter if you're a brand new teacher, or even if you're a young student. The fact that now you're seeing your brothers and sisters in Christ taking a stand and winning. Yeah. I obviously we should take a stand even if we lose, right? But sometimes it helps when the Lord gives us these victories and we can see, okay, Lord, I know that your word says that you will fight for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in some cases like this, you get to see these great victories. Right. And it's a reminder to say, okay, I am going to take a stand. I'm not going to be rude about it. I'm not going to be belligerent, but I'm going to say, I don't have to hide my faith under a bushel. That's right. Even at public school.
Welcome to the GC Collective podcast, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. From local missions to global impact, we explore the vision, passion, and heart behind our collective movement in California and around the world. Where better together isn't just a motto, it's how we maximize our impact in fulfilling the Great Commission.
Welcome to the GC Collective, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. It's good to be here with you today, and I've got Sarah on my right-hand side. She is the communications director for our convention.
Hello, everybody.
And today we have a special guest, and he is Jonathan Keller, the president and CEO of the California Family Council, our great partner and friend here in California that helps us with so many of the things that are happening in at our state capitol and in our nation. And it's just good to have you here today.
Great to be here, Pete and Sarah. Always fun to be joining you here at the podcast.
I'm pretty sure you're our most returned guest.
Oh, wow.
I think at this point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it helps that I'm literally like one block down the road.
It does help.
Yeah. Sure. But an expert in the field and someone who's very much in the know on stuff that here at the convention, we really don't have the bandwidth. And our convention has decided that you are the one that we work with here in California as we're looking at issues of the day. And I'm just grateful for the partnership, and I'm grateful for the work that you do and just how you guys stand on the word of God and everything you guys do. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, it's an honor to have that role and to be able to partner with the convention and so many wonderful churches and ministries across the state. For those of you that are maybe not familiar, if you have not heard any of the previous appearances, our organization, California Family Council, we are a separate 501c3 organization. We are a Christian ministry. We're not a political organization. We are an explicitly Christian ministry. We have a statement of faith, and our mission statement is advancing God's design for life, family, and liberty through California's church, capital, and culture. Yeah. So a lot of those same type of issues, I know that we're going to mention today, Sarah, our friends at the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, very similar portfolio of issues, but we really try to keep it tightly focused, Pete, on those key things that the Bible is very explicit about. Right. I know there's a lot of different issues that believers that are sitting in our pews might have differing opinions on. They might have different perspectives on taxation or immigration or foreign policy. But pretty clearly, we know what the Bible has to say about life in the womb. We know what it has to say about marriage, about gender, about parental rights, about religious freedom. So those are the issues that we really try to focus on, and we try to both protect and defend at the Capitol, and we try to protect and defend believers who want to share those things with their own legislators as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're here today to talk about a surprising ruling that came out of the Supreme Court that affects California families. But before we get to that, we always start with something to celebrate. Pete, what are we celebrating?
Well, as I go around the state, I get to see a lot of the work that happens in our state. And one of the things I get to do is serve on the foundation board, the California Foundation Board. And Dr. Jonathan Jarbo is doing such an amazing job leading there. And those that have come before him have also done such an amazing job in going to our churches, going to the people that have a desire to leave a significant impact for the kingdom. And just a couple years ago, they had a trust that matured. I mean, somebody went to be with the Lord, right? And they left this trust for the foundation to manage. And it was specifically to be used for pastors in Arizona and California for them to go on retreat.
Okay.
Okay. And while I was there at the meeting, Dr. Jarbo mentioned that this year the money would be used for pastors and wives that want to go to the NAM Refresh Retreat in Coronado,
Oh,
okay,
nice.
San Diego,
Okay.
that their way there would be paid.
Wow.
And so it's filling up quickly.
I bet.
Okay, so if you want to know about this retreat, go on the NAM page and go on the foundation page. If you give your $50 deposit, once you get there, you get your $50 back.
Okay.
And they pay for the whole thing. It's November 9th, 10th, and 11th in Coronado. They feed you. You get the place to stay.
Yeah.
And you get a time to retreat with your spouse. I will tell you that this Refresh retreat is one of those retreats that my wife's like, I want to go.
Yeah, right.
Because it's usually in a really nice place and a really nice hotel.
Yes, yes.
And so if you're a pastor, just know that it's wonderful to see how one of our partners is able to do this because of the faithful work that they've done and also the faithful people that have left a blessing to pastors in California. And so I want to celebrate that today.
Yeah, yeah. Did you pony up your $50?
We are going. We are going.
You
but,
said it's filling up.
We are going, but we will not be using that.
Okay.
The convention will be paying for us to go, and we'll leave that money
spot open. Yeah, gotcha.
For pastor.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
That's
good.
great.
That's really good.
The other thing with the foundation is maybe some of you guys are not aware, but Dr. Jarbel's mom passed away on March 4th, and it was amazing to be at her celebration service of life.
Yeah.
And to how they pointed all that she was as an individual to Jesus.
Yeah.
And to see the family that was brought from this pastor and this pastor's wife and just all these kids that were raised in the Lord, walking with the Lord in faith. It was just such a beautiful thing to do. And we continue to pray for Jonathan and all the Jarbel family as they're going through this time of grief. But I will say it was really a celebration of her life that honored, I believe, this amazing woman of faith. And so, Jarbels, we're praying for you. We love you.
Yeah, and I'm not as close to Jonathan Jarbo as you are, but even from my distance, I could tell how well he was tending to her in her final days. And it was a real testament to that family and their faithfulness. So, yeah, we're definitely praying.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So welcome back, Jonathan. I know we already said, you're our most recurring and probably will be just because of the nature of our relationship and our partnership. Yep. I do think oftentimes that when we live in our sort of religious sphere or our church bubble, sometimes we think separation of church and state, we don't really need to involve ourselves with the things that are happening at the Capitol. I know for me, who is very invested, sometimes I feel like, well, we're California, so it's already a lost cause, right? I feel that way sometimes.
That's a common feeling, believe me. So
yeah. Luckily, you're a good friend of mine, so you don't ever let me slip into the depths. But you were telling me about this very surprising ruling that just came down from the Supreme Court. We don't necessarily want to spend time talking about that very much, but give us the lightning round recap, and then we'll talk about what that means for our churches.
Yeah. So the big picture, first off, I'll say this is a developing case. It's still kind of in process.
Okay.
And the way that so many cases, especially if it's a legal case with the Supreme Court, there can be back and forth. Sometimes you have these big blockbuster cases that come down from the Supreme Court. A lot of times those just coincidentally, they literally save those till the very end of the term.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why usually you see in June, you literally have Supreme Court watchers that are standing outside the court. You've got rallies they got pre-printed signs and they're waiting till the last week to see what's going to happen. This was a little bit surprising because there were some big cases that we have been waiting on. I know there's a couple I've been back at the court for the oral arguments, but this kind of came a little bit out of left field because it is still in process. It's in development. And the name of the case, if you started to see it online, it's called Mirabelli v. Bonta. And Mirabelli refers to Elizabeth Mirabelli and Lori West. They were two Christian teachers down in the San Diego area, and they were actually suing. Bonta is our attorney general here in the state of California, Rob Bonta. And essentially what was at issue here was a back and forth going on about whether or not teachers were going to be forced to hide information from parents right here in California. And the reason this kind of came out of nowhere, the reason I didn't talk about this last time we were on was I thought this was actually going to be maybe another 2-year-long process. A lot of times what happens is you'll have a lawsuit. It'll start maybe at the district level, and then it'll get some level of resolution. It'll go to the district court level. And that's the first level of appeals within the federal system. Then it will go from there to the circuit court level. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Right. And then from there, a much smaller percentage of those cases will go on to the United States Supreme Court. Right. And by much smaller, I mean, there are literally tens of thousands of cases at the district level every year. There are circuit cases that go up. Every year, the Supreme Court receives about 3,000 to 6,000 petitions for review every year. The Supreme Court takes about 1% of those every year. Wow. I mean, so 99% of the time, they just reject it at hand and say, nope, we're letting this stand. Or sometimes they'll do something where they'll say, well, we're not going to take it now, but you go back and do a little bit more research and maybe come back to us in a few years. We thought that was probably going to be the case. Well, what happened here was we had a ruling, a good, positive ruling that was helping to protect these teachers' rights. And we'll talk more about that specifically. But the good ruling happened a few months ago. Then the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals put a hold on that ruling and said, well, okay, we're going to put this good ruling on hold because you still have to do some more fact-finding. The trial's not done. Well, the Supreme Court came back and by a 6-3 opinion, just at the very beginning of March, said, no. We disagree with the Ninth Circuit. We actually think that the district court is correct. We think in this case, these parents and these teachers, they're going to probably win. And we are so confident that they're going to win that we are going to remove the stay and let this protection go into place right now. It still has to work its way through. There's still some ins and outs, but this kind of landed like a lightning bolt.
Wow.
It was really amazing. My staff and I have probably done more media on this case in the last week than we have on almost any other case in the last several years. Wow. It was a huge victory. So let me really quick, people say, okay, I know it's exciting. What is the case? What's the big deal?
Right.
Well, so let me give you the background. This is just some bullet points, but if you want to go know more, you of course can always go on our website, californiafamily.org. You can watch the whole podcast we did just on this. You can read our whole article, but let me give you the bullet points. Number one, schools, according to the state of California, they were basically being required to hide a child's gender transition from parents, unless explicitly the child consented that they were going to tell the parents. And this means teachers were being compelled to use new names that the child chose, and not just like, hey, my name's Robert, but I want to be called Bobby, but hey, my name's Robert and I want to be called Roberta or Susie or Jacqueline. Right. Totally separate. And also changing their pronouns. And then on top of that, even though the teachers and the rest of the school administrators were being required to use these new pronouns, they were also being required to actively deceive the parents. And Pete, we were talking about this at the very beginning, but anytime you talk to anybody, I don't care if you're talking to church administrators, I don't care if you're talking to a banker, I don't care if you're talking to a teacher, if you say the phrase to anybody, 2 sets of books, usually not a good thing. Everybody's going to go, wait a minute, what? Like, and they start looking over their shoulder for, the IRS or for an attorney. But that is literally what the state of California was forcing these teachers and these school districts to do. You literally were having to keep 2 sets of books. And what they were saying was, okay, technically we're required to share the official student records with the parents if they come in for a parent-teacher conference. So what we're going to do is create this entire separate set of unofficial records over here. And we're never going to share those with the parents. But again, if we're talking about students who are deciding they're going to try to transition at school, this means that they might be asking to play on a different sports team than their biological gender. This means they're playing on, or they're using different restrooms and locker rooms, changing facilities than their biological sex. Right. And as a result, everybody else at the school has to know about this. The teachers have to know about it. The principals has to know about it. Even the janitor has to know about it. Wow. And yet the one group that was not going to find out about this was the mom and the dad of these students.
That's incredible. I mean, just think how scary it is to send your kids to public school here in California, and to have your kid basically do whatever they want to do. Right. And a lot of them are doing it because they're confused. Others are doing it because they're taking advantage of the system that has been put in place. And you as a parent, you think you're sending your kid to a place that they're going to be taught some positive things and good things.
Right. The job is to learn while you're there.
And they're not. They're just being exposed to someone's twisted way of thinking, and they're forming our kids in this manner. It is just absolutely scary. And it's just wonderful that these two godly people,
two Christian teachers. Right. Yeah. And that was the real thing that a lot of pastors or listeners might be saying, okay, this sounds great, but what is the practical application for me? Well, the great news about this is these two teachers, like I said, Elizabeth Mirabelli and Lori West, they saw what was going on and they said, we cannot in good conscience, just like the Hebrew midwives in the book of Exodus, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or Daniel in the book of Daniel, they said, we cannot in good conscience participate in a lie. We cannot lie to parents. We cannot deceive and lie to these kids and say something that's not true. And they sued. And the incredible thing about this, Pete, let me give one more bad part of the story before we get to the really great thing. Sure. The thing that is so remarkable is it's not just like Sacramento and the administration said, oh man, what a horrible oversight. I can't believe this happened. We need to fix this. Individual school districts down in Southern California, including Temecula and Chino Valley, a few of these places actually passed policies that said, okay, this is a huge oversight. This is a problem. I don't care what the state says. In our school district, we're going to take a stand and we're going to protect parents and protect kids.
That's great.
It is great, except the state of California, the very same year, came around and said, no. We're passing a state law that overrides every one of your local policies and says you cannot do that. It actually banned these local districts from having more protective policies and said you have to go whatever the State Department of Education is saying. So amazingly, after all this happened, and the Supreme Court took a look at this just a few weeks ago and said, okay, no, this is unacceptable. And I want to read you a line here. It says, part of the case said that California had cut out the primary protectors of children's best interests, who was their parents. And parents have a constitutional right under both the First Amendment, their free exercise of religion, and under the 14th Amendment, the Due Process Clause, to be informed and involved. So basically, long story short, this means that as this process is going through, the state of California is no longer going to be able to force teachers to hide these secrets from parents. And the thing I would say to every pastor is this probably means that you're going to have some parents that are coming to you now that maybe for the first time, they're going to find out, oh my gosh, under this new ruling, I just found out that my kid has been identifying as a separate gender for the last year or 2 years, and I've been lied to this entire time. What do I do? I want to say that as pastors, as churches, we need to support those families. We need to love them. We need to let them know that God created us beautifully and wonderfully, male or female, and that there are a lot of great resources to help kids who are struggling with their gender identity, be able to walk through that and be able to get help and counseling and support that they need, number one. But number two, it's also, I think, a good reminder for us that there are people in our churches right now who are modern day heroes that are just like Elizabeth Mirabelli, Lori West. There are men and women, whether they're teachers, whether they're school administrators, whether they're at some other professional field, they may be called on, people in your churches may be called on to take a stand for righteousness. And we have this great opportunity to come alongside them and say, we're behind you, we support you, we love you. And I think, Pete, sometimes we can be nervous and say, I don't want to, I'm worried. Is it the right thing for these teachers to be suing the government? Is it the right thing? Isn't there a way that we can try to go along to get along? In some cases, I think that's true. We don't want to cause trouble just for the sake of being disruptive. But in other cases, just like Daniel, I mean, he ate the food that he was able to eat according to his conscience. He served the king of Babylon in the specific capacities he could. But when he got to a breaking point, and when they said, you have to eat the food that you're not supposed to eat, or you have to stop praying to your God, he said, I'm sorry, that's a line I cannot cross.
Sure.
And that's an area where I think we as Christians living here in Babylon, California,
Right.
we can support our people and tell them we're behind you and we're going to have your back if something like this happens.
Well, and I also think that, we have a biblical responsibility to the least of these, the children, that they themselves are not able to defend themselves. They're not able to go vote. They're not able to speak up in a lot of ways.
Right.
And so it is a responsibility of the church. It is a responsibility of the parents to make sure that we stand up and that we speak and that we can support those that in darkness are bringing light.
That's right.
And so I think that it's more than just great, these people are standing up, but it's all of our responsibility.
Absolutely.
To stand up.
Yeah. So this is a real win for the family, a real win for biblical truth, and some wind in the sails of Californians who feel like maybe this is not a lost cause after all.
Absolutely. Never a lost cause. Now, I'll say my joke is whenever you're at the Capitol, day to day, it's not always fun, but at least it's never boring.
Right.
But the reality is that we know God is always working. Yeah. We don't always get the answer we want in the timeline we want, but other times we get kind of these bombshells that come out of the blue that just remind us, God is fighting for his people.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So while you're here, actually, I wanted to run something by you and kind of get your take on it. The Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission just rolled out this week a new resource called Desiring Children, a practical guide to addressing assisted reproductive technologies in the church. We put this resource on this week at CSBC. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, because we'll always make sure to get these out to you in a timely fashion. But this has been a little bit of a talking point over the last year, Pete, with our committees. The resolution committee addressed this, I believe. Was it resolution committee?
It was a resolution committee. Matter of fact, one of our great friends at the seminary.
Yes, we love her.
Your mentor for the doctorate of ministry degree. She was the chair of that committee and was the one that brought this resolution to the floor. I think it was in Indianapolis, right?
Did she bring it to the floor, or was she the one who spoke on it on behalf of the committee?
To it on behalf of the committee, right? But yeah, this has been an issue that we as Southern Baptists have spoken to. We have passed a resolution. We've dealt with it. We've worked in things like regarding this, and now there's a resource.
Right.
And I love what Dr. Gary Hollingsworth is doing as the interim of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. He is making sure that they speak on behalf of Southern Baptists where Southern Baptists have spoken. And there's a lot of places where we want to speak as a convention or even as leaders of different organizations. But I think it's very important that for this organization that represents not just California, but Southern Baptists as a whole, that they speak where we have spoken. This is an area that is very much like that, and it's a great resource for people to grab a hold of.
Yeah, and I don't want to presume that I haven't really delved into the theology behind reproduction and the assistance of that. Jonathan, what say you?
Well, I was going to say this really is a phenomenal document. I was looking through it earlier today, and they've got a total of 13 different potential scenarios, and then they also have a ton of different individual resources on here. And I will say, before I started with California Family Council, I've been here for 12 years. Before that, I worked for a pro-life organization, a different pro-life organization, for 11 years. So I've been in the pro-life sphere, professional realm, for over 20 years. And this issue of IVF and of what they call ART, or assisted reproductive technologies, this has become one of the most pressing issues for a lot of families. And I'll just tell you personally, from my perspective, something that my wife and I struggled with. We got married in 2007. We got pregnant for the first time in 2009, had a miscarriage. Waited a few months. The doctor said, take a couple months. Tried again, got pregnant again, had a second miscarriage. After our second miscarriage in 2010, it took us almost 7 full years before we were able to get pregnant again. So over the course of that time, we went to see my wife's normal OBGYN. We eventually went and saw a fertility specialist, talked with them about possible options and testing. But one thing that we told them at the time, even all the way back in 2009, 2010 and beyond, we told them that we really did not want to go down the route of IVF. We had some real scriptural, theological, moral problems with that. And we looked at what our options were and what other possibilities we might be able to find. And at the time, I'll be totally honest, the doctor we met with, no offense to him, but the doctor here was primarily an IVF doctor. And it was something like, as soon as we mentioned we didn't want to do IVF, there was like a little switch in his brain that just kind of turned off.
Yeah.
And it was not until we actually found, of all people, a Catholic fertility doctor here in Fresno. My wife and I are not Catholic, we're evangelical. But this was a woman who shared our convictions about God's design for life in the womb and shared the concerns about separating procreation from the marital union. And she was really able to both give my wife and I some counsel, and she also was able to diagnose my wife with a couple of underlying conditions that we had no idea she had. And miraculously, within the first 9 months of us meeting her, we ended up having a couple of medical procedures, and we were then able to conceive naturally. It was a huge answer to prayer. And I think the thing that's great about this document is it lays out the practical struggles. It's a very pastoral document. You can tell in here these different answers. All of these scenarios that they're laying out, I think, are something that pastors are probably facing on a daily basis in our churches, not just across the state, but around the nation.
Yeah.
And what I would say to any pastor or any person who's watching this struggling with infertility is that, I feel you.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been there. Like I said, it took us almost 10 years after we got married to have our first child.
Yeah. And what you guys don't know is that he has 10 children now.
He has two adorable boys.
Two little boys.
Yeah.
We would love to have more. Our door is wide open. If the Lord sends us more, we are happy to have more kids. But for now, we have two more. We have two little boys. And it's something that I would just say, for pastors, if you have not somehow, if you're fresh out of seminary and you have not had these questions asked to you, you're going to get them sooner than later.
Sure.
So I encourage you, really go read this and look at all the deep arguments here, because to your point, Sarah, a lot of the folks on here, a lot of the resources that they point out here, it really does a great job of giving both modern theological resources, but also talking about the history of the church and about why any attempt to separate procreation from marriage is so problematic.
Well, I just want to say thank you for bearing your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy to say, I personally have gone through this.
Yeah.
But, for you to share that, it's just really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. And I pray that those of you that are watching or listening understand that we're not just here to give you information, but we believe in these things.
Yeah.
And as a pastor, I've worked with multiple couples that have had difficulty in having children and have tried different things that are out there. And as a pastor, having a resource that is pastoral was very valuable to me. And I wish I would have had something like this back in the day.
Yeah.
But I pray that this would be something that would help each and every one of our leaders that are out there, our elders, our pastors, those that are working with couples. And again, that just the resources that come out of the ERLC and out of your organization, California Family Council, are there to really assist the local church in different areas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And in addition to the sort of case studies, I think, that are in here and the list of resources, it also has a theological framework that it builds everything off of. And it has a copy of the resolution from 2024 in there. So if you're not familiar, if you feel like you're hearing about this for the first time, then check out this resource and you'll be set. And I just want to say to Jonathan how much California just loves you and California Family Council. We're so grateful for you. Thanks for taking time to be here.
Honor to be here as always.
Yeah, we love it. And we always end our show with a funny story.
Yep.
So who's up?
I think it's him.
Okay, so this is both heartwarming for me, and then it turned into a little bit embarrassing. I was.
Oh, we like embarrassing stories.
I'm sure most of the people will be able to relate to this, but I was meeting with a group of folks. I was at another conference a few weeks ago, and I was just reflecting on the pro-life issue. Actually, I was reflecting on God's goodness in my life and thinking about the fact that in January I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and it was, as I was landing, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the 25th anniversary of my very first time to DC. I went to the March for Life as an 18-year-old high school student in 2001. I got to go March for Life. I got to go walk in the inauguration parade with George W. Bush.
Wow.
So I was landing back there, and I wrote an article for our website and for our newsletter, just reflecting on 25 years. And I was sharing this story with a few friends at this conference. They've been very involved. They're from actually CBU students from the Young Women for America chapter down there. And they've come up to the March for Life for us in the past. They've participated in things. And I was so excited. I was just telling them, yeah, it's so great to see this next generation coming up here. And I remember, blah, blah, blah. And then as I'm telling this, they're very politely nodding. It's these three young ladies from CBU. And I kind of suddenly realize, I say, are any of you even 25 yet? And they go, no, sir, I'm 21. And I go, okay. So I was just one of those reminders, like, you start telling stories and you realize you're telling the stories your parents were telling. And I'm like, So that was just for me. I'm realizing I didn't think that 43 was old. But so thank you to all the CBU students for making me feel like an old fogey.
Yeah. So. Whenever we're around CBU students, you can definitely begin to feel old for sure, man.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over 31.
Oh, thanks.
And then that gray hair, man.
I know.
That's why I shave it.
That's been, it's been like the last year. I don't know if it's my 8-year-old or my 5-year-old, but yeah.
It's both.
Yes.
That's
well,
great.
make sure that you're following California Family Council on social media. You guys are on social media.
Yep. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, all those different ones.
Yeah.
So.
And again, your website, just so people know.
Very simple, CaliforniaFamily.org. And if you go to any of those social media sites, if you just search for California Family Council, we'll pop up right there.
And we'll put it in the notes of this episode as well. If there are any topics you want us to cover here on the show, you can always email us at podcast@csbc.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.